I am so sorry. I had my microphone muted. So let me start over again. So, as I was saying before, when my mic was muted, happy Wednesday. I am not usually on here on a Wednesday night, but I have something that I want to talk about with you all. So, I have this series of videos that I've been doing to help my fellow enrolled agents, right? And these videos, I usually share mistakes that I've made to help other people not make those same mistakes, right? And then, in addition to that, I also have a community that I meet with. They get a weekly podcast, weekly article, and then unlimited access to me in the community. And all the mistakes I make, I give to them raw, nothing held back, right? And I wanted to do this topic the same way, just within the community, but I just feel like all of us need a little bit of help. So while you are hopping on, if you will drop down in the comments and say, hey, so that I know you're here. Hey, Caritza, my folks on LinkedIn, I can kind of ish see you. So I talked to them and they said they are getting that issue resolved. We did some troubleshooting, so you should be able to comment tonight. And then if you're on YouTube, say hey as well. Um, Tonight, we're going to talk about a mistake that I made with outsourcing tax preparation and how it cost me a little over $15,000 a year after I thought I already got rid of the problem, right? So, before I go any further, just in case you're catching this on LinkedIn or you're catching it on YouTube later, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Timlin Bowens, and I am America's favorite EA. I'm also the owner of Bowens Tax Solutions, which is a virtual firm based in Louisville, Kentucky, and we specialize in helping people with tax problems of $100,000 or more, or if they're being actively levied or facing an audit. All right. So let me get to this problem because when it first happened, I was real fired up. And anybody that knows me knows I'm cool, calm, collected the majority of the time. So when I am speechless or my ears are burning, that has me completely out of character. Um, so, just in case you're new to the enrolled agent world and the whole accounting tax prep world, I want to explain the difference between outsourcing and hiring. All right. So, when I'm referring to outsourcing the tax prep work, I am saying that I hired an individual as a contractor, or if I outsource to another company that has preparers, right? Versus the traditional way of hiring an employee that would be under my umbrella of Bowen's Tax Solutions and doing the returns. Now, if you're exploring things, trying to launch an office, you will see that there are a lot of options right now to do outsourcing. Tax preparers reach out to me regularly to see if I have any extra work to outsource. And I'm sorry, I have a horrible, disgusting taste in my mouth from outsourcing at this point. I don't think I'll ever do it again. Not as far as tax preparation, any type of tax work is concerned. So, when looking at it, a lot of people look at the flexibility, quote unquote, and the savings of doing it with tax preparation because they think, okay, if I outsource this, I don't have to worry about employee taxes. And typically, when you outsource something to another company, you are trusting that they are competent to take care of what you are outsourcing to them, right? Woo! And I'm going to get to that too. People's competence. Um, but right, like if you contract somebody to paint your house or a building, you trust that they actually know what they're doing. That's just it comes with the territory. Like if somebody says I'm a painter, you contract them to do that, you don't think you have to trust them on certain things. So in this situation with me, it wasn't so much that I did not want to hire somebody that was like, oh, I'm going to save money and outsource. What happened in my situation is I was dragging my feet. The tax year was quickly approaching, and with the amount of clients that I had and other things that I knew I wanted to launch and work with, I said, shoot, I need help. where can I find help? So I looked within communities where I knew people, where other people had businesses, and I found someone that I believed I could outsource this tax preparation to. And let me give you this disclaimer. So, yes, as you can see, I'm still even a little bit excited now because it's been less than a week. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. This is definitely a lesson learned for me. But I'm going to share the mistakes that I made personally that led to this error. Okay. Because there were red flags that I ignored. I personally didn't do my due diligence. And as a business owner, I will be 100% honest with you. There was a mistake made that I didn't catch. This is my business. So ultimately, that responsibility falls on me. So if you're watching this right now and you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, running your own business, if you cannot stomach the fact that not only you'll have to take responsibility for some of the mistakes you make, but the mistakes of people that work for you, then baby, entrepreneurship is not for you. Okay. As you guys are hopping on LinkedIn, YouTube, make sure that you go ahead and like this stream, give me a heart, give me a what's up, give me some engagement because other people need to hear about these mistakes as well, right? Because I want to help you guys avoid them. So, tax season was coming up really quick. I had dragged my feet and I have become the enrolled agent, the tax professional that I have because I had the opportunity to work within a bigger firm, have hands-on experience and guidance to learn and have that safety net to make mistakes and somebody catch it, right? And that is my whole mindset of what I wanted to do for other preparers, whether they be younger than me, older than me, to be able to walk somebody and literally hold their hand, right, to teach them how to do these things. So my whole intent was to get interns, it was to hire, it was to provide the training and make sure that they knew everything. Because I procrastinated and I needed help, I decided that I was going to outsource. Now, with the outsourcing, I'm 34 years old. I may be America's favorite EA, but guys, I don't get everything right. All right. So with the outsourcing, I thought I did my due diligence. I did have several people that I took through interviews, but let me say this. There are so many people within the tax industry, and not only the tax industry, but I'm only speaking to that right now because that's what bit me in the butt recently, right? There are so many people in this tax industry that hold themselves out as experts and as bosses and as knowing what they're doing, and they don't. And I'm not saying this just because I've been affected by it recently. If you were in that spot right now, that is very dangerous. All right. Because just like me, where I'm trusting this person as a contractor, with the assumption that I'm contracting you so you know what you're doing. Like I used the example before, if I contract a painter, I'm not assuming that I have to train them how to paint, right? If you're telling me you know what you're doing and you don't, and we're working with people's personal information and their money, that is so dangerous. Not only could it hurt them as taxpayers, my business just took a hit, right? Which affects everything within my family. It's okay to not know something and ask for help. All right. Even I don't know everything about the tax law. When I have a question, I have mentors I reach out to, I have community that I reach out to. Please, 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 if you are a solo practitioner, if you're a freelancer trying to get work outsourced to you, if you do not know the answer to something, please let the person that you are working with that's outsourcing work to you, that's employing you, please let them know. All right. It's very, very, very dangerous. So, I reach out to my inner circles, different communities that I'm in, and I start interviewing people. All right. And here's my first mistake. I did ask for different people's experience. I did talk to them about different softwares they used. But after looking at the resume, having conversations, I went with who I liked, right? Which that's important. That's fair, right? But I did not do anything to test their competency. That's my mistake. That's my bad. So if you are looking at going the outsourcing route, you need to make sure that you have something in place to test their competency. And you may be thinking like me, if I'm contracting this person, not actually hiring them as an employee, why should I test their competency? Because you don't want to end up with a $15,000 bill that you have to pay later because of a mistake that person made, right? And like I said before, I'm the business owner. It's a mistake that I ultimately didn't catch, so it still falls on me. But there were red flags along the way before we actually got to this issue. All right. And because I didn't test the person's competency, they said, hey, I've worked in this industry for 10 years. I worked in the specific software you're using for 10 years. I was like, hallelujah. The Lord sent me a ram in the bush. All my prayers have been answered. And then I would go to review returns. And if you're in the tax world, if you know, you know, I was looking at W-2 stuff and the box 12 information was messed up. And I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Then I would have clients who turned in mortgage interest statements. So they're 1098, and it would be on a Schedule E. And if you know, you know, again, Sally, same as last year, if you don't see a Schedule E last year, but we had the same mortgage interest statement and they itemized last year, shouldn't it still go on Schedule A? So there were things like that where I was like, sweet Jesus, I think we've made a mistake here. But you know what? Going back to my experience, the mentorship I had, the hand holding I had, I was like, I need to show more grace here, right? God has blessed me and showed me favor. I should also extend that same grace and favor. Listen to me. If you're a business owner watching, once you start seeing red flags, you can have grace, but you have to remember your business is your baby and you need to protect it. All right. Because everything that hits your baby, your business, is going to affect your babies, your family. I can't even, and some of you all on here, I'm going to start saying hi in a minute. Some of you all on here know the person I'm talking about. And I'm doing my best not to say the person's name because it keeps coming right here. But I would be so frustrated by these silly mistakes that were made by this person who told me they had 10 years of experience, that had 10 years of experience, they said was doing returns in front of people. And I was like, my God, you can't even get them done right now in front of the cat. Like, what is going on here? Like, we got Schedule A stuff on Schedule E that shouldn't even exist. I was so frustrated that it was affecting my husband. Now, he would have key thought it was hilarious until I realized, hey, I'm paying this person $20 an hour, which isn't a lot if somebody has 10 years of experience. I get that. The only thing I thought about as far as probation period was pay. I didn't think about a probation period for if they were incompetent. So, my number one mistake, I didn't do proper due diligence. And with the proper due diligence, that means that when I saw the resume, when I saw the experience, I should say heard the experience, right? I should have reached out to the person they worked with. Because if you had this amazing relationship with somebody for 10 years, why are you just randomly going? Excuse me, right? Like, why are you just randomly leaving? That sounds like a sweet spot. You are doing hundreds of returns a year, and God bless. Like, I want to reach out to that person now and be like, baby, you need to check those returns that person did. That's neither here nor there. For my due diligence, I should have reached out. I shouldn't have just looked and been like, 10 years, they worked with you for 10 years. You did this many returns. That's amazing. You're good. Right? So messed up due diligence there. The second part of due diligence that I messed up on, I should have had some kind of competency test. When I started working at a CPA firm, there were so many tests and continuing education and things that I had to look at. But one of the things, again, because I'm thinking I'm hiring a contractor, not an employee, I should not have to train this person. This is something they should invest in themselves with, right? Because in the IRS eyes, they are their own business. It ain't none of my business paying for their training, what training they took. They just need to make sure they're getting my work done right. No, I should have had some kind of practice. Where's my mic? Some kind of practice return or something that I saw them do. So it wasn't a real client stuff where I'm like, okay, where's their Roth contributions at? Where is the HSA that I know they have? All that stuff is messed up. You got HSA contributions on a Schedule A. Like, what's going on? And for those of you guys that do tax returns, you're probably also like, what's going on? So, should have reached out to the former person they worked with, should have done some type of competency test, right? And then the third thing, I should have created a probation period for, okay, in 30 days, if you aren't up to par or getting a certain amount of returns done without me having to send it back to you, then we're going to cut ways. What I did was like, hey, you got 10 years of experience. Let's start at 20 and then we can go up from there after 30 days based on your performance. Didn't even think the person wasn't going to perform well because I started them with the basic returns. I said, hey, you don't even have to do the business stuff. I pay you $20 an hour. So I'm thinking like, man, I'm going to be getting this work done. I'm going to have so much free time. But instead, I had headache and heartache. Let me go look at the comments. I apologize, y'all, because I got to calm down because I bit my tongue almost saying the person's name. So, my tax sister Caritza, hello, hello, hello. Miss Dorothy, thank you so much for hopping on YouTube tonight. And again, if you're on YouTube, do not forget to go ahead and like this broadcast so that it'll help me with the algorithm. If you were on Facebook, which I know I have, it's fluctuating between like 6 and 8 right now. I only have 2 reactions and likes. So, if you're enjoying the show so far, go ahead and give me a heart, maybe even a share if you're a fellow tax preparer. Lightstorm7 says, hey, Timlin. Hey, hey, hey. Girl. I don't even know what you're saying now, what the what about, but it was bad. Like, we can go to lunch and talk about it. You going to be fighting mad, some of the stuff I had to deal with. But it's going to get better. So Karina says, everything that hits your baby hits your baby. So true, so powerful. And yes, somebody had to help me to realize that because if I'm angry, upset, frustrated, that's going to roll over to my family and affect them. So I brought this person in to help me so I can have more time to spend with my child, right? My business partner. So I can have more time to spend with my husband. So I can cook dinner if I want to instead of going to Chick-fil-A. But no, the opposite happens. So again, everything that hits my business is going to hit my family. So if it hits my baby, it's hitting my babies. Caritza, because I'm not actually on Facebook, if you sent an emoji or something, I cannot see. But let me, y'all, I told my husband what I was getting ready to do, and he just texted me the person's name, but I'm still not going to say it out loud. Let's go ahead and get to the mistake, all right? So Karina says, so didn't they reach out for help or directions on getting it done when they run into a snag? So Karina, here's the thing. This person, God bless them, this person would make mistakes. For example, you're in Texas, so you don't have state income tax. Here in Kentucky, we have state income tax, right? And they would make a mistake like they would type in too many numbers for the withholding on a W 2. So this is just a W 2 return. This is not a small business. People, some of them didn't even itemize. Maybe it was like 2 or 3 W 2s, a child, and dependent care expenses. They would put the information in. And then on the state return, I would pull up the file and there'd be a $40,000 refund. So I don't even know if they knew they were making mistakes, like if they didn't comprehend they were making mistakes, or if they didn't even blah, due diligence to check their own work. Because hey, if a state return has a $40,000 refund, like what is up? But like that was happening multiple times. Or, like I mentioned earlier, I have stuff from box 12 on the W 2 showing up on Schedule A. And I'm like, yo, what's up? Like, why is this here? And there were a few times the person told me, they were like, oh, well, that's what I did at the place I worked at before. And I was like, hot dang. Like, there are some jacked up returns based on you being there 10 years and doing returns in front of people. And the crazier thing is, when I would hop online with the person to like walk them through things, because ultimately, like I said, is my responsibility. So I was ticked off that I had to train this person who had 10 years of experience, who's worked in this particular software longer than me. I would get on Zoom with them to walk them through stuff, right? On a W 2 return. Nothing special about it. And they would say, hang on, I have to work through what you just said before you say anything else. So I literally would turn my camera off and be like, what? Like, how are you in an office doing returns with somebody sitting right there and I can't even give you instruction on how to fix the return, baby? Make it make sense. And that goes back to, I didn't do my due diligence to do a competency test, like some type of practice exam. And this probably could have all been avoided if I wouldn't have just been like, yeah, you look like a good contractor based on the resume. And I reached out to the person I worked with before. Because uh, the math wasn't mathing. There ain't no way they did 10 years worth of returns, right? Like it wasn't, it didn't, no. Lies. Like there's no way. But to answer your question, Karina, so no, or they would have a long list of things that weren't real snags. And when I say real snags, like I'm very empathetic, like I said, usually calm, cool, collected. Every firm should have their systems and processes. Again, I know I come from a different situation, which I call very privileged. Right from college, I went to one of the top 10 firms in the world. They had so many systems and processes, some of which I brought along with me that I take for granted other people don't have. But if you worked in another office for any amount of time, you had repeat clients, you know to go look at the return from the previous year, right? Like I said, Sally, same as last year. I'd have a long list of don't have dependent social security card, don't have driver's license, don't have prior year return. One, the returns were in the system and rolled over, so there was stuff that rolled over. Two, every client, because I didn't take any new clients last year. I think I took a few, and that was favors to good clients. No new client. So every client had a permanent file. And every client's permanent file was the information that she was asking for, which I had told, ooh, not her, them, the person, not her. Thank you, Jesus. I'm not going to say nobody's name. Listen, I had told the person multiple times. So I write everything out. There were things where I wrote like 30 different steps. And here's the kicker. Wrote 30 different steps. The person said, I may need to take a timeout. The person said, Oh, I got it perfect. I just needed it written out like this. Then they turned around and did it almost the exact opposite. My business partner, who will be 10 next week, was only 8. No, 9. When did I fire her? The person. When did I fire the person? Dang it. Um, she was 8. She looked at the list, and this is organizing files. This is not doing tax preparation. All right. This is organizing files. She said, "Mommy, I can do that." I said, "No, you can't." She said, "Yes, I can." I said, "Here, you can do these too." Now, here's the power of NTI and school from home. They know how to work computers, create files, and all that stuff in Google now, right? So I'm not in Google, I'm using a different system. Do you know my 8-year-old followed the directions and did it and said, "Mommy, uh, can I listen to music while I work? Can you pay me $10 an hour?" But the person I paid $20 an hour who worked in an office for 10 years couldn't do it. Y'all, that is when I was finally like, no, you have to go, because now I'm paying you as if you already know what you're doing. Then I'm paying to train you how to do a tax return, not just follow things the way I do in my business, but like how to prepare a return. I'm paying you for that too. And you're not an employee. If this was an employee, it would have been completely different. I would have had no issue. I would have trained the person from the ground up on how to prepare the return, how to do things. But again, going back to me, and the mistakes I made with the competency, my due diligence, reaching out to the former person, checking out that experience, I messed up there. All right. So when I look back at it, I didn't got to the big mistake, you all. I still need to go check files of stuff this person did before we get rolling in January. When I look at the thousands of dollars I paid them to go mess up stuff that I had to go fix, to train, take the time to train them on how to do it, and then they still messed it up. And it seemed like they were intentionally messing up so they could get it back. Outsourcing wasn't worth it. Not for me. Now, if you've done it, you've had great experience, that's cool. I hope you're following the guidelines and that you are doing everything that you need to disclose to your clients that somebody else does have access to their information. That should be at minimum in the engagement letter. But if it works for you, like, God bless you. I will never, ever, ever, ever outsource it again. But let me get to the kicker. All right. So I have, let me look at these so I can get this person's name out my mouth. So Ken Renee says, "Woo child, listen, I'm laughing so hard, but not because they must have gotten trained on YouTube University. I don't know where they got trained. I don't know, but again, I should have done more than just like their personality. I should have done more than just like the resume. It would have not taken much effort for me to call the person they said they worked with, right? And like, y'all, look, Chris is on here. That's my tax sister. She knows that season I was livid because I'd have all these returns done and be glad, then I'd go to review them and they were completely wrong. But because I didn't start it that year, I knew it was wrong because it looked funky and I'd had these clients for a while. So I would have to go back in from the beginning to figure out where the person messed up. And now I'm like, I paid you to do the return. I had to spend extra time figuring out what you did wrong, and then I did the return. Again, the math just wasn't mathing. Lomenzo, thanks for joining, sir. Kritza. Woo! Yeah. Karina, yeah, go baby girl, go. But that's irritating. I'm like, yo, you're older than me. You know what you're doing. You're wasting my time. You're playing with my money. My 8-year-old just did this. And like my family and stuff would be laughing, not my daughter. She'd be irritated because I was irritated. But they'd be laughing and making jokes, talking about the person. And I'm like, this isn't funny. Like, I'm mad. I'm losing money here. Hey Jason, thanks for joining. He says I'm getting mad now too. Listen, but you have a business. I mean, if you hire somebody that's supposed to know what they're doing, you're contracting them. You're not assuming that you have to train them on what it is that they do. Maybe train them on your processes, but it's like, come on. There is so much danger in holding yourself out as an expert when you're not. It's okay to not know everything and to ask for help. All right, the moment we've been waiting for, the 15K. So I have clients that make some pretty good money. All right, they do pretty well for themselves. So I have a client, a multiple six-figure client. Again, we're talking W-2s, retirement, nothing fancy. You see, it still kind of makes my stomach hurt a little bit. So they received a notice last week for an accuracy related penalty. And if you're not familiar, an accuracy related penalty is when the taxpayer has underreported their income, right? Or there are some deductions that they shouldn't have actually claimed or credits that they weren't eligible for, which is still essentially underreporting the income. So I've been doing this now since 2011. I left that firm in 2013, so everything 14 and on has been on me. Every time I've had a client receive an accuracy related penalty and income was missing, it was due to them not giving us a document. Now, sometimes it's not malicious and they're not like, oh, well, we didn't think we had to turn that in. What happens is maybe the person who provides that document, they give it to them electronically. So they didn't actually get it within whatever the folder platform is. One second. Sorry, my front door opened. So maybe they didn't get it and they just didn't get it to me because it's a new form. All right, that's cool. We can go try to get that accuracy related penalty abated because that's not true negligence. They just did not know it was there. They gave me everything else. They're usually pretty compliant. So I looked at this return. I looked at the notice, and when I got it, I really wasn't worried because what I just told you guys, like, I've been on my own since 2014. It's 2023. Every accuracy related penalty has been at the fault of the client. So I'm looking at this, and the IRS notice was kind of wonky, and I see how much it is in additional tax. And then I see the penalty plus interest is $15,000. That's the first thing I looked at, of course, because that's what's going to fall back on me. So I was like, okay, cool. What is the IRS saying that they missed? Let me go to the return. And when I'm looking at the return, I see the same numbers that the IRS has. But here's what happened. All of the documents were put in, but if you're a tax professional, you'll get this. When we have retirement distributions, we have, depending on the type of account or the basis, we have a taxable portion and we have a non-taxable portion. All right. So as I'm adding up the numbers for the distribution, I see all of it there. I look at the non-taxable part and I was like, they don't have a lot going on in terms of like multiple streams of income or anything. They just have a lot of it. But in this instance, I was like, the bases, I think there was something there. We had a conversation. You all, I wish. I ended up, because you can't see everything on the papers, I had to go into the software. And as soon as I opened the software, my stomach dropped because I saw notes from the person I've been talking about tonight. And when I say I saw notes, it was stupid notes. For example, there was a property purchased. And again, you'd have to be a tax professional to follow this. But Maybe. There was a property purchased, so we have on that more proof of what do you call them? Mortgage points paid, right? Which should match what we're going to have on the 1098. I saw that note because I remembered this person putting that information on a Schedule E and me correcting it and just not even giving them correction notes. I just went into the return and I thought fixed everything. So I go in and I'm looking at the distribution. Like I said, that was right. But then for the part where we had the taxable distribution, when I was looking to see the bases and looking at my notes, it was a typo. This person's taxable distribution should have been 6 figures. The person working with me only had it at 5. So there was over $100,000 of taxable income that did not get reported. All right. So as soon as I saw this person's name, like I told my husband, I said, this mistake is ours. This mistake is absolutely ours. And by ours, I meant mine. He's my silent business partner. My daughter is my loud business partner, but nobody's on the paperwork with me. I knew that the problem that I didn't get rid of right away was still coming back to bite me. And that's exactly what happened. So in this situation, like I said, sometimes the taxable income from a distribution can be different based on the basis. That wasn't the issue here. A number was just left off. So with that, I just got really quiet. Y'all, I didn't even go to sleep Thursday night. No, I take that back. Well, no, because it wasn't Thursday night. I went to sleep Friday morning at like 5 or 6 and slept like 2.5 hours. I missed a holiday mixer I was supposed to be at, a virtual one online Friday, because I was so tired from being up stressed on Thursday, right? I was so upset. My ears were burning, and my husband just sat in the room with me. And I was like, don't you have to go to bed? I think that's what I said to him. He's like, I'm just going to sit here. Oh, I know you need me to be here with you. But he didn't say a thing because I was so like, not going to say all the things that I wanted to do, but I was so upset. And yes, so I think Jason was saying exactly. There's definitely danger to people holding themselves out as expert, and like as a business owner, you understand that, but employees, contractors, you guys have to understand that too. If you need help with something, please reach out to the person that you are working with and let them know. Even if you are an enrolled agent on here right now and you're building your own business, if there's something that you don't know, yes, you learn as you go, but not at the cost of affecting playing with somebody else's money. Go get a mentor, go get a community. And yes, you probably do have to make an investment into a paid community, a paid mentor, because then that's going to be somebody that you can rely on more to give you that answer, to make sure that while you're learning as you go, you're not messing somebody over. All right. Krista, I can't see what that is, but thank you. Lamenza, apps, like I was so livid. I was so livid that my friends that I know wake up at 4 and 5 in the morning and start working and stuff, I was sending them messages at, I think it was like 1:32 in the morning, because I was so irritated. Because again, I will accept full responsibility on my shoulders, because even though that was a mistake, I went back in over a year later and I was able to see exactly where it was made. I dragged my feet, so I wasn't able to hire an employee that I could train from the ground up, so I knew what they knew, right? I didn't do my due diligence and actually reach out to the person that this contractor said they worked with. I went with the assumption that the contractor knew what they were doing because they're a contractor. And again, this is just being honest. Everybody's not cut out to be a freelancer. Everybody's not cut out to be a business owner, be their own boss, right? Because even when I did bring mistakes to this person, they always had an excuse or like, oh, I just didn't know. Like, baby, if you've been doing this 10 years, like, the tax law changes all the time, but some of this stuff is not changing. So, like, you just didn't know is not, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. And if you're a contractor, you go to the person you're working with and let them know that you need help, but that is not something that you would get paid for, right? And me being me, I still paid the person when I trained them, but let me stay on track. Didn't do due diligence, competency, all of that. And because it was last minute, this is something where if I would have had an employee who was trained to already come to me when they had questions, if we weren't in rush mode where I warn people, like, now if I don't have tax documents after a certain time, like, you just have to file an extension. And it's because of things like this type of mistake. I could have caught this earlier if I had taken my time to hire versus outsourcing to a contractor. All right. So I had to speak with the client because they sent me the letter, right? So I had to respond and tell them like what was up. And the conversation, it did go well. I mean, as well as it could. Um, the thing though that they appreciated about it, and going back to what I said earlier, if you cannot stomach the thought of having to take responsibility for your mistakes and having to take responsibility for the mistakes that other people have made on behalf of your business, entrepreneurship is not for you. Because even though I did not make the initial mistake, I had to sit on the phone with these people and tell them, yes, this 5 figures in tax bill is yours to pay. Yes, this penalty is my fault because you should have known about this amount of taxes when we filed the return in 2022, but you didn't because we made a mistake. And I have to own that and apologize for it. So the conversation went well because they said, hey, we appreciate your transparency and you taking full responsibility for the mistake you all made. And I said, well, there's no point in me lying about it. Like I know people do, because like I said, the contractor that I was doing the work with, they always had an excuse for like why they miskeyed stuff or they just didn't know. Or so that brings me to the other thing. And I want to know you all's opinion. So if you guys are still with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, I want to know what you think. I reached out to my insurance. They were like, hey, you've been with us since you've been open. You've never had to make a claim. This is covered. This is how much your deductible is. You will they gave me all the verbiage and everything I needed. So the client needs to send me something in a certain wording. I give it to the insurance company. I send the client what my deductible amount is, and then they will take care of the rest. Thank God for errand on mission insurance, right? But here is what I went back and forth with, and I'm not going back and forth with it anymore, but I just want your opinion. So, yes, Lomenzo, when I think about it long enough, I'm still livid. Karina says, yikes. I don't know what you were saying yes, yes, yes about. For my deductible, do you all think that I should go after the person who made the mistake, who had continued negligence? Do you all think that I should go after them for the deductible, or at least half of it? And let me know what you all think in the comments, because I think I've made my decision and I've made peace with, what my decision is going to be. But I just want to know, if you were in my shoes, you hired a contractor and they made a mistake that cost you $15,000. They made a mistake that now you have to take ownership and responsibility with the client. Do you think that it's fair to go after them to pay the deductible or half the deductible? Any portion of the deductible? Let me make sure I didn't miss any comments. And if you hopped on late, say hey in the comments. So Lomenzo, thank you. He says, being that they were a contractor, yes, those are my exact thoughts, right? So Jason said the client or the individual. You could, but would you get it? So Jason, my client, I wouldn't get anything from. Like I was so appreciative. I don't be cussing nobody out. But if I figured, like, if I found out that I owed somebody's salary in taxes because of a mistake that was made, I'd be pretty upset. But they were very patient, seemingly understanding on the conversation, the call that we had. Look, they owe me nothing, I owe them, right? So I'm talking about the individual that I hired as a contractor to work for me that made the mistake. So Karina says yes on accountability, yes on community, yes on paying for mentorship. Oh, amen, absolutely. But going back, so Lomenzo, yes, I think them being a contractor, they most definitely should pay the deductible. Because if it was an employee, they're under my umbrella, they're under all of my training and everything. I would have to take full responsibility. However, I'm not gonna reach out to them about the deductible, and here's why. I talked about how frustrated I was working with them throughout tax season, how that affected my spirit, it affected my communication with my family. This person never took responsibility for any mistakes that they made during that whole entire tax season. If they were to so much as fix their mouth to act like this was not their fault, I just feel that I would be pulled completely out of character. And for that reason, I'm going to take care of that deductible. I'm going to chalk it up to a lesson learned. This is going to be my scar. Like I said, I'd have to hear God's voice audibly tell me to outsource tax preparation for me to do it again. Right. So I'm chalking it up to being part of the business. I'm not going to reach out to them. I don't want to see the person's face again. I don't want to hear their voice. Because like I said, anything else we worked on, when I would bring up something they did that didn't cost me money directly, and I say directly because it was indirectly costing me money. If I got to give you the same return with 3 children in a W 2 4 times, like that's costing me money, you're wasting my time. There would be excuses there about why they didn't have something they needed that was sitting right there in the portal, or how the software was glitching. So something this big, I know I would be like, and I believe in respecting my elders, right? Because like the person is older than me, didn't have more tax experience than me, not quite. Cause like I said, I've been doing this since 2011, and I did work at a much bigger firm. So like, I worked on a publicly traded company. I've worked FI, so banks, financial institutions. I've worked partnerships, S corps, the whole shebang. But yeah, I don't, to protect my peace, I'm not even going to reach out to the person. I want to pay the deductible. Like I said, this month, instead of completely enjoying Christmas break, I'm going to be going back through files that that person worked on just to try to avoid anybody else catching any mistakes that may have been made on anybody else's return. And I've learned my lesson. So Karina says, have they at least owned their mess up? Because if not, it will probably be a headache going after them. There has to be some integrity there on their part. Yeah, they never, I think when I told them they had to go, they apologized and said they didn't want me to have a bad experience. So I'm like, you didn't care about this for months until I said you had to go, right? Um, and gladly turned in hours where I trained them on stuff and they had to fix the same thing like 4 times. So yeah, that is when I was talking to two tax sisters and I said, you know what? I believe they owe me that and probably more than give me back some more of what I paid them. But I'm washing my hands of it because I think it would definitely be a bigger headache. Because, like I said, if they even fix their mouth to be like, oh, well, you didn't, nope, it'd be a wrap. Kendra Renee says some things are just not worth the hassle and interference with your peace. Amen. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So, this is why Friday you all saw me post, let's say fire fast, hire slow. And it is what I was referring to yesterday when I said, you guys want to hear about how outsourcing tax prep cost me $15,000 over a year later. And you guys shoot up a prayer for me. Pray that it's not going to cost me any more money. Please. Chris, I'm going to check these out later. If I missed anybody's comments, I will come back on. I'll respond to those. But it would be remiss of me if I did not mention, yes, I'm being a little harder on my EAs, tax professionals that aren't EAs. Guys, you have to do your due diligence every year. Make sure you're getting your continuing education so you actually know what's going on in the tax law. Because while I kept it professional and did not say this person's name, even though I accidentally said their gender a few times, don't be that raggedy tax preparer that just keeps taking clients and you don't do any type of education or anything. All right, don't be that person. Get in, even if you don't have community locally, get in an online community where you can go ask questions, where you can figure out different updates. Shoot, I write articles like, if you want, you can go to Think Outside the Tax Box. That's a good one. That's different tax planning. I write over there. If you want to learn more about tax representation, you can subscribe at bowenstaxsolutions.com. I got some stuff that's not tax representation. But right now, you can join the Tax Pros Representation Journey. Like I said, I have the weekly podcast, the article, and no, it's not just like a feel good, you can do this to make this much money, XYZ. No, you can ask them. I'm on their necks right now about them posting and keeping them accountable to, okay, you said you want to reach this income goal. These are the steps you need to take to reach that income goal. They have homework every week, but in addition to that, I have a paid community now. People have been asking me for one forever. My page says no DMs. I'm going to hold to that this season. All right. So the people within that community, they do have access to me, unlimited access within the community. It is a monthly subscription. So if you get in there and you're like, this isn't for me, take your credit card information out. Bye. No love lost, right? Because I hate getting in a program and I'm not like, this isn't really what I wanted. I want to leave, but then I'm stuck for a year. I'm not doing that to anybody. But if you're like, I really don't need the podcast at this moment and the articles and everything, you can subscribe to just the articles at americasfavoriteea.com. So right now I do have the articles on building your practice, how to get tax representation clients, even if you don't have a big social media following, how to price your first no, how to price your first case, how to handle your first consultation. And then right now, they're getting crazy results from post prompts that I gave them. So we're doing something for 15 days. I'm giving them the prompts to tell them what to post about on their social media, what the call to action should be. I'm compiling that into a checklist. So that will also go into the paid article subscription. So even if you are not an enrolled agent or aspiring enrolled agent, I still have stuff for you in that article only subscription. And the article only subscription is $25. So you still get the once a week articles that the higher level gets, but then there are also additional articles that will have to do with like the Corporate Transparency Act, helping a client if they owe $10,000 or less, and things around that. So I would love if it was me. It doesn't have to be me, But absolutely 100% get the help that you need so you're not out here being one of these raggedy tax preparers. All right. Because once you get caught up being a raggedy tax preparer and you've been out here for years being raggedy and not getting any type of mentorship, not taking any type of education, like we can't help you when everything comes crumbling down. We're probably going to be a kiki laughing at you because like you knew better. You had the opportunity. So again, if it's not with me, go find your community, go find your tax sisters, your tax brothers, go find that mentor, even if it's not me. But hey, Rue. So Rue says, first, I'm going to say hello out in Cali. Thanks for joining. Rue says, Timlin is one of the best mentors. You'll be in great hands. I may be a little biased. I think so too. But if you all have any questions about either of those subscriptions, once I get off of here, I will actually put the link to subscribe down in the comments. But if you guys don't have any other questions right now about my experience, thank you, Caritza. Caritza said facts. If you guys don't have any other questions about my experience, I am going to get off for the night because I do have some articles that I want to work on. I'm working on one for the 2848, a tax prep checklist, because we got people out here like my contractor that don't know the things that they should be looking at each year. So if you are that person and you don't have somebody you're working with, I'm preparing a tax prep checklist for you so that you have it. So when you're doing somebody's tax return, you make sure that you have everything that you need or you understand what Sally is, same as last year. You know how to look at the return from last year and say, I should at least have XYZ, right? I have an engagement letter for tax representation. I'm not being biased here. There's some good stuff in there, guys. But like I said, I'm going to get off. If there are any topics, if you're interested in the article subscription, if there are any topics that you would like for me to cover, please let me know. I'm more than happy to do that for my paid subscribers, which I have some on here. I appreciate you all. But yeah, I'm going to hop off. Thanks for rocking with me. Please make sure that you um, like this video, give it a heart, and share it with another tax professional, please, 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 so they can avoid the mistakes that I made in outsourcing. You guys have a fantabulous night, and I'll see you online.